This is Constant Elevation, the show for rising Air Force and community leaders who seek to define the future. Learn powerful work and life tactics to tackle any challenge. I'm your host, Gabriel Gabrock Avila. Let's go. Welcome back, everybody. Gabrock back on the mic once again. Constant Elevation podcast, doing more video stuff. Like I said, this is a progressive thing that I'm trying to do and figure out how I can develop more content and just challenge myself with different technologies. Also serves as an excuse for me to tech refresh things that I just want to have as far as toys. Got a better HD webcam, and so the quality of the video is obviously better. Trying to figure out this lighting thing. I don't really know how to do this either. Like most of us, I'll just watch YouTube stuff and figure out the way it is. So eventually, maybe I'll fondly look back at episode 26, like, oh, I remember when I was using this setup and it was really hard or really easy, and then we'll see how things go. And so I used about 10 minutes of this time before I started this episode kind of messing with the stuff. And then eventually I was like, just freaking record. It doesn't matter. You'll figure it out along the way. Because I'm not aiming for perfection on this entire thing. I just aim to produce content that I enjoy producing, as well as sharing some of my thoughts out there for my military and community fitness leaders in the community. And so this one's a little bit different because, speaking of time, last year, I actually was invited. We had a local flight leadership course, and so it's called flight leadership because it was supposed to be the Air Force's version of a flight commander course that General Goldfleet wanted all the wing commanders to move out on. But instead of just limiting it to flight commanders, traditionally company grade officers, we extended it out to senior NCOs and civilians who served in similar roles, and so we ended up opening it up to more people. In any case, I was asked to teach a 1 hour block, and I said, well, I think I can teach something about time management. I think that'd be interesting, and how people would hear my perspective on it. And they're like, yeah, sure, that sounds good. And then I was like, so do I have to teach some pre-recorded stuff? Or are you going to give me material? Or can I come up with my own? Because I prefer the latter. And they're like, no, you can do the latter if you want. I was like, all right, cool. I actually prefer that because it's just going to come off as a more genuine type of delivery versus me teaching, which I can do that as well. If you give me a curriculum, I probably can teach it. But I want to talk about my perspective on time management. So what I'm going to go over is I dusted off this old my ideas, and I want to cover that today. And so I'm actually sharing this across a couple other platforms as well. And so there's going to be some links here where I'm going to be my thoughts and ideas are shared across whywelead.org. So that's from Matcha and his website, as well as Moosocracy. And so Moose, two different websites, really good Air Force leaders who also enjoy sharing their leadership thoughts as far as how we can all be better. Two different kind of, all three of us have separate platforms, but I'm honored enough to be featured as a guest contributor to both their platforms. And so I really appreciate you guys taking me up on the offer and then just allowing me on your platform to share some of my thoughts. So this week's episode is where I'm going to be talking about the 6 components of my time management strategy, very similar to the curriculum that I taught during that flight leadership course. And so if you see my eyes moving down, this is one of the parts I don't like about videography. I'm looking down because I'm looking at my notes, and then I'll try and come back to the camera and just kind of talk. But for everybody listening to podcast land, you'll be able to hear my thoughts, as well as everybody can go to the website constantelevation.co, and then you can see the full transcript if you want that I previously wrote. So let's dive into it. So first one's as far as time management, energy preferences. And so what this means is really understanding who you are as a person. And what I talk about is, are you a morning person or an afternoon person? I've told people before, usually when I join new teams, that my energy levels are really, really high in the morning. I get that my best work done in the morning all the way through lunchtime. And then once lunchtime hits, it dwindles down. I've always been a morning person since ROTC. We had 0600 PT formations. I just had to train to be a morning person, so I'm a morning person. So what you have to do, though, is a lot of these time management things I'm talking about, you actually you need to communicate these and keep these with the team in mind as far as how your time management strategy is going to be. I share my things early and often with my teammates, both up, down, and across my chain of command, just so people understand how I work, what's the optimal conditions for me. But then obviously I have to fit in with everybody else's battle rhythm, and so you try and manage those things accordingly. So energy preferences. I'm a morning person. So I usually come in early, whatever early means, and I like my quiet time in the morning. I had a one time where my first sergeant used to come in my office and he would shoot the shit with me, which is fine, but like it was my time where I was catching up on admin tasks, email, drawing on the whiteboard, just kind of getting my thoughts prepared for the day. And I had to tell him, I was like, hey, Shirt, so I really appreciate you coming in, but I kind of need like time at least until 8:30. Let me gather my thoughts, clear out my stuff, and then once 8:30 hits, we'll hit the ground running and see where we go from there. And he respected that, and he appreciated that I shared my thoughts with him. And then it ends up becoming just a better relationship that I can focus on my thoughts because I know the way I tend to go about my work, my duty days, and then I progress after that. And so just sharing those things. As well as towards the end, like I said, for anything in the afternoon, it's not like I can't work in the afternoon. I just my best thoughts and my best energy in the morning. So you need to understand what those are and make sure you communicate to the teammates around you because I think they're really, really important. Kind of goes really the next component, battle rhythm, and so this ends up becoming it's a natural progression, right? And so a lot of times I'm really big on keeping battle rhythm events according to what they should be. And maybe that's because when I started to learn the efficiency of that when I worked on PACAF staff. And so like, when you have you need to have, if there's a meeting, there needs to be a 7-minute drill that says, what is the purpose of this meeting? Where's the inputs and outputs? Are there decisions? I don't know why I'm doing this with my thumbs. I'm not Fonz. What are the inputs? What are the outputs? Is this the decision making? Is this information only? Who are you talking to? Are we talking across? Are we synchronizing across the teams? Are you just telling me as the principal of the meeting? You have to understand all those events. If you don't have those things clearly lined out, you probably have some efficiency issues. You need to maybe that meeting isn't even necessary. And so focusing on the battle rhythm things, and then also the other component is staying time disciplined. If the meeting's only an hour, you better work really hard to make sure you get everything you're supposed to get done in an hour because you should be respecting everybody else's time. The more times you're in meetings, the less time you're actually doing stuff. And so I keep, like, we'll say 34% of my current schedule kind of white space because I need time to think and go do work. And you don't have to attend. You should not feel like you're having a progressive day because you're just attending meetings because that means you're not doing something, and potentially you are not becoming, especially if you're in a leadership position, you're not going to be available. If you're not available for your subordinates or other teammates to come get you because you're constantly in meetings, you're not efficient. There's something wrong. There needs to be ways that we can kind of, double dutch in and talk with each other and then go back and do work, maybe talk to leadership at another thing. And you have to really, really analyze and take the time. I think when you're part of a staff, that ends up becoming much more difficult because there's pre-briefs to the pre-briefs to the pre-briefs to the general, whatever it is. But like you have to put those things in order. And so really think about time discipline, not wasting people's times. And then just if it's an hour, it's an hour. And then the other piece is, if it's going to be understand the inputs and outputs. There better be a damn good reason why you have a meeting, or else you shouldn't have that meeting. Or it should be a thing of when other subjects come up and be like, hey, so we need to talk about XYZ. Be like, ooh, that's a really good subject, but we talk about those on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock. So bring that to that meeting. And then because it already has the right people there, the right audience. It's an appropriate subject by all means, but you can avoid just calling another meeting because you already have a designated place to talk about that. So that ends up going really, really well. One quick note that especially at the squadron level, if available, I learned this from when I took over my second squadron, is that we had two separate meetings. We had a staff meeting and an operations huddle. So the staff meetings where we talked about all the admin things that I needed to, like commander business, as far as reviewing, TMT tasks or evals, award packages, inbound, outbound personnel. And then every week we would have like a security manager update, a fitness update, a resource advisor update as a team. So all the admin stuff we did on one day, and on another day we would talk about operations, and so that was pretty cool. So the flight commanders and supers, we would talk about all the things that are going on within the unit, and kind of talk. Just that's where we separated the talking about work and then talking about admin, and so that actually was very, very efficient because depending if you have those combined in one event, one of them is going to can easily dominate the other side of the battle room event, and then it becomes like a 2-hour event, and nobody wants a 2-hour freaking meeting. So if available, highly recommend creating a ops huddle and a staff meeting. All right. Item number 3, electronic communications. And so there's a lot of, and I think it was really funny because I was the comm squad commander, and I'm the one talking about I actually started off my section of this. I said, I hate email. Email is like one of the bane of my existence as far as, because nobody's going to be satisfied as far as, people come over and talk to me like, oh, my email could be better or blah, blah. I'm like, dude, you just got to be, you're focusing your energy on something that's not worth it. And so I would have conversations with people, but a lot of times it just is not my favorite topic to talk about. But electronic communications in itself is a necessary evil. And so for your own time management sake, you actually have to have some really good strategies built in early. That way you don't let the email or your work cell phone or whatever it is become a shackle to you. It should be an enabler, not something holding you back. And so a couple easy hacks that you can see people do this all the time. One of the things I do at work is I turn off all the notifications. And so I don't let the little pop-up bubble thing go here. I turn off the audio stuff. I don't want email to be consistently coming in and distracting me from what I should be thinking about. A lot of times I'll be reviewing documents or involved in one conversation, but then I keep on my mind is getting interrupted by like the constant stream of activity of email. So just turn all that off. It's pretty easy. Also, you can, use out within email, you can use some of those coloring notifications of something's coming in from your boss or your boss's boss. You can clearly change the color notification on that. That way it draws your eyes to exactly what you should be looking at. It's pretty easy if you want to do that as well. I think there's also a piece where electronic mail is, we use it for certain things, but then we have better online collaboration tools we should be leveraging instead. And so instead of sending me a 10 megabyte file or something like that, just send me a link to SharePoint or Slack or anywhere else that I can do online collaborations. I'm much better at that. And that way it's not a serial conversation that just keeps on piling up in my inbox. We can go offline and make sure we work on what we need to work on dynamically, right? So you can have multiple editors, multiple authors on a product. And so that is just using technology that we have now available. And so by focusing on not just thinking outside the box and not just thinking about your email, you can really leverage electronic communications better. Another piece is designating a priority line of communication. What I mean by that is, and this is going to be, it's a little bit different depending on if you are working in a secure environment. Obviously, they have all the security rules, so you can't bring in your phone or whatever it is. But in a normal Air Force environment, if you want to call it that, you're probably going to have at this point in time, you're going to have your personal cell phone on you. And then if you have a duty phone on you, that's fine. But like, what I always used to do with my group commander or wing commander, and I said, hey, sir, ma'am, so I may not be staring at my email all day. So if something is important, please just call me or text me, and then we'll figure it out. But I know it's programmed to my personal phone, so make sure you have that number because I only use my duty phone for email. So I have my personal phone, and just call me. I can immediately, when I see a missed call from the wing commander or group commander, I know I need to call them back immediately, and it's flagged like that. So in other words, anything else that can be done at my own discretion or whatever it is, you can send it over email or something like that. But if they text me and they say, hey, Gabe, I need you to go look at something I emailed you about 30 minutes ago. Okay, yes, sir, ma'am, I got it. And then I can go back to there. But you have to figure out those ways. Don't let priority things happen over email, ever. Maybe you need that for the references, but like you should get a follow-on human interaction of like a phone call, a text, whatever that is. But make sure you identify those priority lines of communication, both up your chain of command and across to your teammates, because that just frees it up. You're not constantly just staring there looking at email. Am I getting anything important? Like nobody cares about that. Just call me if something is that important, but make sure you communicate that early on with your teammates. So electronic communications. You can read more thoughts on the article itself. Okay, so the next ones are really going into personal time management. I really think that like if you can balance both your professional and personal things in life, that's where your time management skills are going to be most optimized. And so the first part of your personal stuff is family. So if you work with me, you know that because I tend to be a morning person, I front load a lot of my work in the morning because my wife and kids are either getting ready for school or they're still asleep. So I'm not missing any family time. But when it comes to the afternoon, I prioritize my family time. Our dinner time at 1800 is a mandatory family event pending, work or something like that. And that's an exception, right? And so I make sure I'm home. I don't coach around. I try and coach before 6 o'clock because I want to make sure I'm home for dinner. We have to make sure that we have all the food, the ingredients. Gina and I, we plan out our meal plan, stuff like that for the week. And so that family event and making sure I build in those mandatory times is very, very important to me. And I think what happens is that there's a positive effect to that, and everybody else recognizes that you prioritize that. So they're going to know that it's okay to prioritize that as well. We're not at the point, it should be the exception when you are, when you have to work long hours because of a certain, project or task, whatever it is. That's always going to be the exception. And you should work really, really hard to try and figure out how to do all the work that you can do during your regular duty hours or early on, something where you're not missing out on family time. So, our daughter just turned 16 yesterday, and we have a 13-year-old. So that time there, she works, and then the kids are going to have, after school activities and that kind of stuff. And I don't want to lose on that time. And so even for the 20 minutes of dinner time that we have after dinner time, after cleaning up, everybody splits up and does their own thing anyway. And that's okay. But I wanted to make sure, and our teammates and my time management, that family time is very, very important. So make sure you prioritize that. Next piece is, actually, there's a funny story in here. I'll tell this one. So this is when my daughter, she ended up getting recognized. She was like a student of the quarter or something like that. And then this was young. She was I think she was like 4th or 5th grade, but it was a big deal to her. She's very, very proud. And she's like, Dad, I want student of the quarter. I'm like, oh, that's awesome, babe. She's like, yeah, there's going to be a ceremony. You're going to be there, right? And she wasn't asking like, hey, can you make it there? She was definitely leaning forward, like, you're going to be there. I was like, dang, Lana, yes, I'm going to be there. Okay. So then, so it was important to her that I was there. And so I went to work, figured out my work schedule, plugged it in there. I'm like, yeah, this is the thing I need to go to, plug in travel time. So you work it out with everybody, like, hey, sir, so you have this block here. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to Lana's, she wants student of the quarter. Like, oh, that's awesome. It's all a positive thing, right? Everybody who doesn't want to be there to, recognize one of their kids' achievements. And so I go, and she sees me in there, and, so the whole, 4th grade, they're sitting in the audience, stuff like that. And then they present the award to her. She gets up, and I'm like, yeah, woo, that's my baby. And she's like, oh my God, Dad, you're so embarrassing. And all of her friends are looking at her and stuff like that. And she just starts laughing. And so she was like, I was like, I told you I was going to come. She's like, why are you so loud? I'm like, I'm proud of you, honey. What? I'm not going to stop being like that. And she's like, I just wish you would maybe not be so enthusiastic. And since that day forward, my kids know any single time when they say, hey, Dad, would you calm it down a little bit? I will exponentially be the opposite. So just be cool of what you're asking. I'm going to be there. Obviously, I'm very, very proud of you. And so, but they know that I may show up with like a big fat head picture of them, or I'm going to wear a shirt that says like Benjamin or Lana's dad or something like that, because I'm proud of my kids. And those fun moments, unless you prioritize them and fit them into your schedule, you're going to miss out. So don't miss out on those stories. It's good stuff. All right. Fuel. So I kind of talked about this earlier as far as, the mandatory dinner event that we have in my family, but fuel. So I am not a perfect nutrition macro counter or anything like that. I've tried a bunch of stuff. I've tried the zone diet. I've tried macro counting. I've tried if it fits your all those kind of things. And they're good. Like depending on what your fitness goals are, you definitely should have a good understanding of what is a sound nutrition plan, not only for yourself, but for your family as well. It's kind of hard for you to do one thing, but if nobody else around you in the house is doing the same thing. So fuel. So I'm a big, as far as time management, I'm a big proponent of meal planning, meal prepping, I should say. So on Sunday, I'm cooking all the breakfast. I'm cooking all the lunch. And I have my meals, at least for my duty days at work, Monday through Friday. Breakfast and lunch is standard. I already have them cooked. And that way I don't have to worry about that. I'm not going to make a poor decision based on like, oh, I just didn't have time. I'm going to go to the fast food place down the road or something like that. Like that's terrible. Or it's not terrible. It's terrible if that's your actual logic every single time, right? Not only is that expensive, that's just you will not perform efficiently as a person if you just keep on fueling yourself with crappy food. So make sound decisions, cook some clean food, whatever it is, and just have it available. That way you don't have to, you've already pre-made it, so you don't have to make a poor decision later. In addition, you can and the same thing applies for dinner, right? You have a full menu out and you're not, if you want to have pizza on a one, that's fine. Like we actually have so for our family, for family dinners, we have 4 nights of the week where we cook 2 nights are leftovers, and then 1 night is a free for all where we might go get a pizza, we might go eat out. That's okay. I think, and even when we go out, we don't get anything ridiculously gross. We'll get some burgers, whatever it is, but again, it's all balanced out. Even our kids, they understand that like there should be some vegetables somewhere on the plate, a lot of clean proteins, not a lot of carbs, all those kind of are starchy stuff. So like we have those things there, but we're building in these reps with the kids, so they know how what should be a well planned out life. So because your nutrition is important, because you're just going to be wasting time going back and forth to get fast food or just making poor decisions. In addition, make sure you have smart snacks around you, right? So my drawer has some beef jerky or Kind bars or whatever it is. It also may or may not have Pop-Tarts or M&Ms, a little bit. That's fine. But like for the majority, I know exactly that I should have my smart snacks around me. And so just deliberately thinking about your nutrition and your fuel ahead of time will help you become more efficient with your time management. Again, more tips in the articles. Last one is going to be fitness, because obviously I always have to talk about fitness somewhere. And so my fitness regime is just part of everything that I do, right? Depending on your work schedule and your function, hopefully if you have squadron PT, cool. If you have to be personal responsible to your own PT, even better, more than likely. But it's your responsibility to make sure, if you're going to serve in the military, you have to be fit anyway. And I'm not talking about like meeting the bare minimums. You should be striving to be a very good, a fit individual, right? And so, and if you're an officer, you better be leading for the front and making sure that everybody sees you working on it. I'm not saying you have to be the epitome of an athlete or anything like that. I only care about you just putting work in. And so if you're consistently doing that, if you suck at running, you better schedule running, because you need to work on that. If you need to be a stronger athlete, then make sure you put in the work in the gym. Get those push-ups in. There's no excuses. You can always fit in time for fitness. And there's that good feeling as time management wise of getting those early morning runs in. Throw some headphones in, listen to a podcast, listen to some music, and just that feeling of like, I got my work in before while you guys are still sleeping. That's just a really, really good feeling. And so it goes without being said that fitness, it has to be part of your time management, because you need to fit it in there. And so you only have so many. What happens is all the things I just talked about, they start to prioritize how you build your schedule out, and it just gets rid of all the bullshit that you shouldn't be focusing on. And so, those 6 components, I think, really shape a sound time management strategy. And like I said, you have more of my thoughts in the article here. You'll have it on other platforms as well. And so whywelead.org, as well as moosocracy.com. I'll have all the links in the description here on this, on this YouTube episode, as well as within the podcast episode. So really think about how you manage your time. And the last quote is, you should manage your time. Your time should manage you, right? And so use some of these tips. I'm interested to see if you guys have any other tips that you'd like to share with me. I like to hack all my things going on to become a better person, a better airman, a better leader. And so by all means, share them here maybe in the YouTube description below, or just send me an email and I'll post them out to a Facebook group, whatever, and then we'll keep it moving. So that's it for this week, and we'll talk to you next week. Peace.